Welcome to the Bay. All right, let's talk about the big one, the battle for the GPU throne. In one corner, you've got the reigning, undisputed champion of 4K gaming, the NVIDIA RTX 4090. And in the other corner, the brand new challenger, a monster piece of silicon built to own the future, the RTX 5090. For the last couple of years, the 4090 has been it, the final word in PC performance. No questions asked. But now, with the new Blackwell architecture dropping, we've got a real title fight on our hands. So, does the old king still have what it takes, or is it time to crown a new heavyweight champ?
Okay, let's get into it. We have two cards here that are at the absolute peak of performance, but honestly, they represent two totally different ideas for builders today. So let's break down who they are and what they're really bringing to the table.
So on one hand, you've got the RTX 5090. This thing is what we'd call an ultra halo card. It was basically engineered for one single purpose, to be the fastest, most ridiculously powerful, no-compromise GPU on the entire planet. Then you have the RTX 4090, which has kind of shifted into a new role. It's still an absolute beast, but now it's become the smarter, more attainable value flagship for people who want top-tier performance without that extreme top-tier price tag.
So let's get right to the main event. The reason you're all here, raw 4K gaming performance. This is where champions are made, right? How big is the gap really between the new silicon and the old guard when you push them to their absolute limits?
And here it is, the headline number. The data shows the RTX 5090 pulling ahead by a massive 20 to 50% in 4K gaming. I mean, that is a huge generational leap. Of course, you're going to see the biggest gains in the most demanding, GPU-heavy games, the ones that are just brutal on geometry and ray tracing. And just so you know, this data comes straight from our friends over at bestgpusforgaming.com. If you really want to see the full, exhaustive list of benchmarks across a ton of different games, you should definitely check out their site for a much deeper dive. Now check this out, because this is basically the worst-case scenario. This is Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K with ray tracing cranked all the way up. The 4090 puts up a super respectable 110 FPS, which is great, but the 5090 just pushes past it to 135 FPS. And let me tell you, that 25 frame difference, oh, you feel that. It's just a smoother, more responsive experience in one of the toughest games out there. And as you can see, this isn't just a one-off thing. Across the board, from Warzone to Starfield and even Fortnite, the 5090 just holds this consistent, significant lead. It's not just a little bit faster, it's a completely different tier of performance for anyone serious about high refresh rate 4K gaming. So, okay, the 5090 is obviously faster. But why? It's not just about more brute force. The real story is all the next-gen tech that NVIDIA has packed under the hood. So let's take a look at what's really making this thing tick. Okay, here's the secret weapon, DLSS 4. This is the 5090's ace in the hole. It's an exclusive AI tech that uses the new hardware to generate entirely new frames out of thin air, basically doubling your frame rate in games that support it. This is how you can turn on all the visual bells and whistles and still get an insanely fluid experience. So when you put it all together, the 5090 is a true Blackwell monster. You've got the new architecture, a whopping 32 gigs of insanely fast GDDR7 memory for things like AI and 8K textures, that exclusive DLSS 4 tech, and huge improvements for heavy ray tracing. This card isn't built for today, it's built for the next 5 years. But hey, don't count the 4090 out just yet. It is far from obsolete. It still offers incredible 4K and ray tracing performance. Its 24 gigs of VRAM is more than enough for pretty much any game out today. And this is a big one, it has a lower 450-watt power draw, which makes it way easier to cool and power. Plus, you can, actually find one to buy. And that brings us to what might be the most important round for a lot of builders out there, the real-world stuff. Performance is one thing, but what does it actually cost you? In dollars, in watts, and in just plain old space in your PC case. This is where the 4090 gets to land some serious counterpunches. So let's look at the tail of the tape. Yeah, the 5090 has more VRAM, we know that, but look at that power draw. 575 watts compared to the 4090's 450. And what that really means is you need at least a high-quality 1,000-watt power supply for the 5090, while the 4090 is perfectly happy with a more common 850-watt unit. That's a pretty significant extra cost for your build right there. And this right here, this is the knockout blow in the value department. When you actually calculate frames per dollar, the RTX 4090 is the more efficient choice. It gives you better performance for your money, plain and simple. The 5090 is faster, yes, but you pay a huge premium for that extra speed. So where does that leave us? Who actually wins this showdown? Well, the truth is there isn't one single winner here. The right choice depends entirely on what kind of builder you are and what you're trying to do with your rig. Look, if you're a 4K or even an 8K max settings enthusiast, or maybe an AI developer or a creative pro who needs every last drop of VRAM and computing power, your choice is simple. You want the absolute best, period. And the RTX 5090 is it. No compromises.
But if you're a high-end gamer who's still smart with your budget, or you're trying to build an efficient flagship rig where power and thermals actually matter, then the RTX 4090 is, without a doubt, the smarter buy. It gets you 90% of the way there for a lot less money and a lot less hassle. So the final decision really comes down to you. Are you going to be chasing the absolute bleeding edge of performance with the 5090, or are you going to go for the smarter, more practical power of the 4090? For a full breakdown of all the specs and benchmarks we talked about today, you should definitely go visit bestgpusforgaming.com. All right, that's all for now. Keep it cool and keep building.